Hello, I'm Cathy Mae Karelse, co-founder with Tariq Dervish of Ayurveda in Action. We developed Ayurveda in Action in order to reach people like you, who like us are keen to live a healthier, more meaningful life in a world that is certainly in trouble. For all of us, we have our own personal stories of how we became involved in yoga. We oftentimes felt the need maybe to become healthier or fitter or more active. And yoga seemed a far better idea than hitting the gym. That was certainly the case for me. For others, it's the more spiritual side of yoga that called to us, and we came to learn about the postures and breath work as a result. Whatever our doorway and entry point, we've come to embrace yoga as an approach to life with guidelines on how to live ethically. So yoga comes to mean many things to us beyond just thinking of it as spiritual or as physical. Ayurveda is a close relation of yoga, sometimes called its sister science, and it teaches us even more about the world in which we live. It deepens yoga's value in our lives by showing us how the gateways of our senses and our actions are influenced by and how they in turn influence the world. Ayurveda teaches us how to protect the senses, neither overusing, underusing, nor misusing them. And it adds to yoga an understanding of how to live wisely and in relationship with ourselves, with others, and with the living universe. But Ayurveda is about well-being beyond healthcare. It's about human flourishing and possibility. Ayurveda in Action opens this world of knowledge, of learning and engagement to help you expand your world and switch on your agency to live a more fulfilling life. It enhances your ability to navigate the world awake to who you are and how you act in the world. And it does more. It offers a socially embedded approach to Ayurveda and yoga in response to the social climate of our times. As we all know, we are facing multiple crises across the world, including, but not limited to, the climate emergency, growing ill health, and food-related diseases. Since Ayurveda was originally developed to address rising levels of disease as people gathered in urban contexts, we thought it ideal now to reapply it to our social settings, especially since the catastrophes we face affect all of us. None of us are immune to the direct results of rising levels of carbon emissions, plastics in our ecosystems, mass farming, and corruption of food systems. In Ayurveda in Action, we foreground the tremendous teachings of Ayurveda, which have always been concerned with social milieu, and we apply these directly to our current situations and conditions. But let me tell you a bit more about who we are. Tariq and I are both classically trained in Ayurveda and yoga. By that, I mean that we have both spent decades, quite literally, studying Ayurveda and yoga in India, in South Africa, and in the UK. And we have taught in different contexts and countries. We are exercising what we have learned to apply it to today's world. We believe it is responsive and it makes a humble contribution to a world in need of love. The point of this is to see how Ayurveda, which was born out of the need to address rising levels of communal ill health, can be applied today to better navigate our worlds and keep us healthy or restore our well-being individually and collectively. We are admittedly pushing the boundaries of how Ayurveda and yoga are usually delivered as individualized interventions that apply the principles of both these traditions to help us live more consciously and awake to our world. We believe this makes our lives more meaningful in relation not only to ourselves, but also to our communities. Ayurveda has 4 primary concerns: our role and responsibilities in this life, living a good life in which we accrue and dispense of wealth honestly, with scruples and in accordance with ethical guidelines. Ayurveda encourages us to pursue wholesome desires that allow us to give expression to our unique knowledges, skills, and talents. And it guides us towards freedom, towards liberation, and living awake in the world. These foundational tenets emphasize what Mary Oliver calls living this one wild and precious life. It asks, how can this one wild and precious life be lived with great vision and a sense of purpose and legacy? In fact, when we follow Ayurveda, the magic of life and our interaction with the living universe can make living vibrant, fresh, and alive. Perhaps it's helpful at this point to introduce myself more fully. I should indicate that my love of Ayurveda and yoga is not simply academic and intellectual. 30 odd years ago, I was, after many months of being listless, suffering dramatic weight loss and having no energy to the point of being bedridden, and after many misdiagnoses, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. This led to my being put on sick leave, on medication, and strict bed rest. My recovery period also lasted for about half a year. To be honest, I had no energy. I smiled at whoever came to visit, but I literally got up with help only to bathe and return to bed. To my young partner's amusement, I'd watch the beginning of a movie, sleep through the rest, and wake at the end to comment on how great it was. I was quite out of the loop. Autoimmune conditions are familial. They often run in families, and I was the first in my family to be diagnosed a decade before my mom and my sister. And these diagnoses were rare in South Africa in those days. It meant we were a bit at a loss as to how to deal with it. I encountered Ayurveda and yoga as part of the great Eastern traditions. After my diagnosis, I visited an Ayurvedic practitioner and followed the dietary and lifestyle regime specified. Now, there are many factors that contribute to our restoration of health, but I'm convinced that Ayurveda and yoga played a significant part in my recovery. I have, throughout the past few decades, especially when I overwork, courted relapse, but I continue to pursue Ayurvedic and yogic ethics and principles and continue to lead a healthy life, thankfully. In addition, Ayurveda and yoga have definitely also helped me with a chronic slip disc condition, but I'll leave that story for another time. So Ayurveda has played an intimate role in my life, and it's kept me drug-free. And while I cannot promise that it will do that for others, I've become familiar enough with the holistic nature of these teachings to know that it works with the whole of our being and offers support in all areas of our lives. That said, I was blessed with lots of family support too. And in some respects, Ayurveda relies on this. It is immersed very much in an understanding that ill health is never an individual thing, that healing journeys require support of professionals and of loved ones. Ayurveda's approach, when we say it is holistic, does not only consider the mind, body, and spiritual dimensions of our being. It describes, for instance, in some detail, how our uses of the senses can aggravate or alleviate ill health. Its holistic approach helps us live in harmony with the seasons, emphasizing the living nature of our universe. It encourages us to observe the changes of seasons as much as the seasons themselves, to calibrate our dress, our food habits, and our activities accordingly. It guides us in daily life. In other words, Ayurveda engages and discusses the living contexts in which we dwell. It is naturally concerned with social milieu, with work environments, and with social contexts. And it is in this regard that it is especially relevant as we come to understand the challenges of climate heating and its effects on communities, societies, and on people. It helps us attend to rising conditions of anxiety, for instance, that arise from uncertainty. The waking up that Ayurveda and yoga offer have built-in regimens, practices, and guidelines that can help change our lives and those of our nearest and dearest. Of course, when we are healthy, we bring a glow or a demeanor into our environments and relationships. And so more people benefit from our well-being. But more than this, when we receive the benefits of Ayurveda as we apply the teachings, we often become excited about sharing these with others. Tariq will share with you his own story in the next video. Just as we were both inspired to study Ayurveda and yoga on account of the success of good health it brought us, we hope that you will be inspired to continue learning and to share what you learn with others through your work or in your personal life. This first video aims to convey Ayurveda's natural curiosity about our relationships with our environments. The next video will look more closely at what it has to say about diet. But before then, we have 2 questions for you. We'd love to hear how you came into yoga and how it inspired you. And we'd like to know what you'd like to learn about Ayurveda. Please leave your comments below. We look forward to hearing from you and to building together this movement of Ayurveda in action.